Hi, and welcome to 15 Minutes of Fame. I'm Jeffrey Driscoll.
And I'm Jim Kerr.
Well, Jim, let's get into what everybody will probably want to hear from us, because, you know, even though we're days late, people will still want to hear from us on this. Let's talk about the vicious hit by Zdeno Chara of the Boston Bruins on Montreal's Max Pacioretty. I guess everybody's seen the hit by now, and if you haven't, go Google it. But what happened basically is Zdeno Chara pushed, I don't know, lifted up and threw Max Pacioretty into the stanchion of the boards at Montreal's Bell Centre. So this week a lot of stuff has happened. Zdeno Chara didn't get suspended, although he did get 5 in a game or 5 in the rest of the game. It was conduct during the game. But what has happened, for instance, that we want to talk about is, you know, Via Rail and Air Canada and different politicians came out, and said the NHL isn't doing enough to combat injuries. I guess, Jim, if this had been another Canadian team, would we be hearing about this at all?
Well, I wonder about that. You know, if it was Vancouver, if it was, you know, say it was Taylor Hall gets knocked into the stanchion, do you think Air Canada would be threatening to pull its sponsorship of whatever team they sponsor? I assume it's Montreal.
Totally. Jim, where's Air Canada's headquarters?
Oh, I think it's in that, oh, geez.
I think in French they call it Montreal.
Yeah, and I don't know, these companies don't know what they're talking about. They have they clearly haven't been following what, you know, pro sports in general, but hockey as well. The NHL, it's a contact sport. I don't know if they knew about this, but it is a contact sport. There's only so much you can do to regulate injuries.
Absolutely.
They have brought in certain rules to, you know, to try and combat or try and remove certain types of hits out of the game. I don't know, these people coming out this week and saying, oh, they're not doing enough to protect the players and this is a travesty. Where were you last year when Mark Savard got hurt?
Exactly.
Where were you
Matt Cook.
Earlier this year when Sidney Crosby got knocked out there? Where were these people? Yeah. It's Montreal though, so all of a sudden everybody's...
It's a big deal.
You know, I think across Canada though, people get... There's something about... When something happens to the Montreal Canadiens...
There's something, eh?
Maybe the history of the franchise or something, people get riled up.
No, you're right. And when you talk about where is everybody, Jim, where's the NHLPA on this? I mean, the Players Association, one of its members tried to hurt another one of its members, whether it was intentional or not, and no, not tried to, did hurt another one of its members. So where's the PA on this? If you're really serious about stopping things, it should be a player. It should be a player-initiated group going together and saying, "Look, guys, we can't try to kill other people in our association. It's just bad for numbers." Sheer numbers.
Well, yeah, that's it. And maybe behind closed doors there are some discussions, we don't know.
Well, that's right. But I mean, we only see what happens outside. And Donald Fair, the president of the NHLPA, he came out and said, well, the boards, you know, people in Montreal, the Bell Centre was responsible to make sure the boards were good enough that somebody didn't get hurt. Could you sit on the fence anymore? You know?
Well, that reminds me of the NHL statement when they decided not to suspend Zdeno Chara, where they said the player was injured due to contact on the stanchion and then hitting the ice. Well, what caused him to hit that stanchion and then hit the ice?
Yeah, it's all the stanchion's fault. No, that's exactly right. I don't know. It drives me up the wall. I just think if...
And you're a Chara fan, too.
I'm a big Chara fan. And you asked me earlier, you know, would you have suspended Chara? And absolutely, 3 or 4 games, I think. And I'm a huge Chara fan, but it needed 3 or 4 games.
Yeah, people say there was no intent. Well, first of all, only he knows.
Yes.
He says there wasn't, as you would, though.
You have to.
But if there was intent, that should only mean a longer suspension.
Yeah.
You know, if there was clear intent, you would, you know, that would become maybe a 10 instead of a 2 or 3.
Yeah, that's right.
But, you know, the fact that an illegal move resulted in a serious injury, I don't know how you don't suspend that.
We'd like to hear what you think on it. There are voices and opinions from all over the place. So why don't you hit us up on our Facebook, on our Twitter, on our YouTube page, and tell us what you think. And maybe if it's good enough, we'll bring it up next week.
Just don't pull your sponsorship.
Yeah, please no. Or give us sponsorship. One of the two. We like that too. Whatever you feel.
Dear Air Canada.
Yeah.
We think it would be great for your reputation and business model
Absolutely.
to join up with 15 Minutes of Fame. Even though we just slammed you.
Yeah, that's right. So that'll work well. Let's stick with hockey here, Jim. Let's talk about the Oilers. I mean, we talked about this last week, and one of the things we said was, you know, if the Oilers' luck wasn't bad, they would have no luck at all.
That's
I mean,
right.
The latest injury that they've got was by a player jumping over the bench and cutting the hand of another player on the bench. I mean, you just can't get bad luck like this. Sam Gagner out for the season, was having a really good year. You know, I guess we just hope again for next year.
Yeah, that's, you know, when you talk about bad luck,
oh man,
that is just outstanding stuff right there. You know, they're finding incredibly creative ways to muster up season-ending injuries right now.
That's right.
And you know, the 42-point club.
42-point club, yeah. And last year they talked about how it was the set a record for man games lost to injury. Well, this year it's not the record; it's the types of people who are getting it. You know, like it's not the Zach Stortinis, you know, or the Steve McIntyres. It's this, you know, Sam Gagner, Alex Hemsky, Taylor Hall, and then we traded Dustin Penner. We just have like our 4 top point producers. We just don't have on the ice right now.
And don't forget Whitney's been on the sidelines, and he was leading the team in scoring at that moment. Who knows where he'd be at this point in the season?
We can only hope for next year. We're going to move on to the GABBYs now. These are the good and bad by you. We take the best and the worst from the world of sport submitted by you, and we talk about them here. So the first one we're going to talk about is the Miami Heat. Last week they were in the middle of crygate. There were some rumors that they were crying after a huge loss. They went out and they beat the Los Angeles Lakers, and it was a good game. I really enjoyed it. And they got over crygate, I would say. There wasn't any crying on the floor. Chris Bosh scored a game-tying high with 24 points. When Dwayne Wade took over the game at the end, and the L Heat won it there. What do you think there, Jim?
Well, you had to figure that losing streak would end at some point.
Yeah.
I just can't believe that their coach came out and said they were crying.
Yeah.
That put another heap of pressure on them. But, you know, it shows that the Heat can play, you know, at that level against the elite teams in the league. You know, the fact that they lose to teams that aren't elite is a bit troublesome. As long as they make the playoffs, though, I think they've got an opportunity to make a run, and it's always a different dynamic in the playoffs when you're playing the same team every night. But when Chris Bosh is contributing, the Heat are dangerous.
Yes. When
he's not, they're not as dangerous, and he's not consistent.
Yes.
So
interesting that he'd be the guy that's the swing vote on there. You know, you think with Wade and LeBron.
Oh, but they're always good.
Yeah, and then and whether
so that's the thing. He's maybe not the legitimate third in that category of big three.
Yeah.
But he is a good player.
And when he's on,
he's a good player, maybe not a great player.
Yeah.
And he seems to falter a little bit, and maybe confidence up and down.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know. Gary Bettman had a good response to Air Canada's. I guess we're not going to get that sponsorship.
No, not from Air Canada, not this time.
So he had a good response to Air Canada threatening to maybe potentially pull its sponsorship money. He said, you know, Air Canada, they've got every right, if they don't feel like they want to work with us, to pull their sponsorship money. Just like our member clubs, if they don't feel like they're getting the appropriate level of service, they too can find a different airline.
Yeah, nice
so
work.
It's kind of a no, it's fine. But at the same time, he's kind of sticking the knife in.
Exactly.
Because Air Canada is not even a league sponsor.
No,
what are they?
not.
So let's get this straight. Because the NHL didn't suspend Zdeno Chara for a hit on Max Pacioretty.
Right.
Air Canada will pull its sponsorship
of the Montreal Canadiens?
Montreal or Toronto, I guess?
Yeah, I don't know.
So what does that do?
Totally. I'm not a big fan of Gary Bettman, Jim. I don't think I've made any bones about that. But I actually like the move by Bettman on this one. I mean, that was some New York lawyer stuff right there. You know,
if the glove doesn't fit.
Exactly. Attaboy, Bettman. I mean, good for that. Good for them. I mean, Air Canada, it's a PR stunt. It's an absolute PR stunt, and it's just not right. So I mean, good for Bettman. As of this weekend, 3 points separate the 10th from 4th in the West in the NHL. We're going to give a good on the Gabby side here to the playoff races, especially out in the West here. It's really been entertaining. I love that the West battle. Yeah. Calgary from 4th to 10th to 4th to 10th. It's absolutely great. I'm looking forward to it in the next 15 games here.
It's funny that at this point in the season, every single year, the teams fighting for 8th are playing each other every other night.
Weird.
It's like the schedule, but how
tried that?
How can they know every year that it's going to be this group of teams?
It's a mad crystal ball. They got it. They got it figured out.
That's fantastic, though. You got 7th versus 8th, 8th versus 9th every other night.
Oh no, Beauty. It's absolutely entertaining. Let's make sure the Leafs don't on the East side. Let's just make sure the Leafs don't make it in there. Right?
Speaking of bad,
yes,
we're going to go to the bad side of the Gabbies now. We're going to take it to the curling rink. Still on the ice, but the bumpier ice.
Yes.
Kevin Martin, Alberta.
Yeah.
He's a champ. Not at the Brier, though.
No.
Lost out to Glenn Howard's Ontario rink at the semifinals of the Brier. The Tim Hortons Brier.
Yeah.
They're not paying me. Roll up there. Some pretty shoddy play this week by Martin's rink. Seemed to be fighting the ice the whole tournament.
Really
Sheet D especially.
Sheet D was a bad one, yeah.
Sticking with curling, though, we're going to give one of the Brier organizers. For the first time, the Canadian Curling Association introduced a third-place match into the tournament.
They wanted a bronze medal for the Brier.
Yeah, Martin said, make this go away. And he says they put all their effort into winning the big games. What do you think about that? Is he just upset that he didn't win?
Well, this is the thing, Martin is he's a big winner even on the world stage, world champion, 4-time Brier champion.
Broke a 30-win streak.
That's right.
Brier.
Exactly. So for him to get 3rd place in the Brier is nothing. He wants the top spot in the Brier to go for a world championship. So I can understand from his point of view. Now you look at somebody like from the Yukon or from Manitoba or from Saskatchewan. The 3rd in the Brier is probably a pretty good thing. So I don't know which side to go on that, because we're from Alberta and I've been watching Martin for so long. I think I got to go with him and say get rid of the 3rd place.
Well, and at the same time, I mean if the history of the Brier doesn't have a 3rd place, then why are you bringing it in?
No, totally.
Are you going to hand out participation ribbons?
Yeah, no kidding. On the bad side, we're going to give it to both the NFL and the NFLPA. This week, the NFL owners locked out the players. The NFLPA decertified. It's looking like this is going to be the first work stoppage since 1987 in the National Football League. It's putting America's game in jeopardy of not playing for the 2011 season. Right now, all they've really got is the draft that's coming up. That's the only thing they're allowed to do. They're not even allowed to talk to each other, the coaches and the players. What do you think here, Jim?
Awkward. It's going to be, I think that this is going to be a very hotly contested thing here. They're far apart on a lot of issues.
Yeah.
I don't know that I see the end in sight.
No.
And with the players filing antitrust suits and I think it's going to get messy.
It's going to get real ugly. Good for the NHL, though. Good for the NHL.
Well, on Sundays anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Wrapping up the bad here in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, a bit of a racial incident this past week. Player was suspended for 2 games. His team was fined $500. So if you're going to put a price on racism, it's $500.
Yes.
For a racial slur. Guillaume Osselin of Chicoutimi.
Good pronouncing.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Took French in grade 4 to 12, I think.
That's good.
Yeah. Allegedly made a comment to Quebec Remparts defenseman Michael Tam. He was the guy who was rocked by Patrice Cormier.
Yes, if you remember that.
Last season.
Yep.
So $500 fine, 2-game suspension. I don't know. I guess that stuff still happens in the game.
No kidding. We got to get racism out of the game.
And then this player that was the offender here, he's a star player, like a high scoring player in the Quebec League, and not that should matter, but I don't see what the point is.
No, I agree. I mean, the racism should be out of the game. There's
plenty of things about someone to make fun of.
Exactly. You don't have to bring race. We're going to move on to quick hits now. The Canadian cricket crew won their second ever World Cup match over Kenya last week. They gave Pakistan an upset. Good for them, and keep it up, boys.
Yeah. That's great.
All right.
I watched a bit of that when I was in Australia, but it's
I love cricket. I love watching it. I love that it takes all day to do it, and I love that you can drink beer all day while you're watching the game. I absolutely love it. March Madness is next week. NCAA. Jim, are you going to watch it work?
I'll probably watch. I won't know what I'm watching. I'll watch.
Well, that's our 15 Minutes of Fame are up for this week. Join us again next week when we get a whole new 15 Minutes of Fame from the home offices in Edmonton. I'm Jeffrey Driscoll.
I'm Jim Kerr.
Have a good week, guys.